Wait, you never know.
Okay,
Welcome!
hurry up. I'm starting to cramp. Oh.
I'm Jeff Febvre. He is Mark Messina. Joining us today, the doctor is in, Chris Masse of the Williamsport Sun-Gazette. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
my pleasure.
He said, how do we want, is it like Sun-Gazette reporter? I said Sun-Gazette legend.
That's
what do you go by over there?
Legend works pretty well.
Okay.
That's pretty perfect.
All right, there you go.
I think your Twitter handle should be Legend Masse, not Doc Masse, personally.
Yeah.
Maybe a little Little League World Series recap, some Friday Night Lights. First night for high school football under the lights we're now 7 hours away. So it's creeping up on us. And then if you have comments and questions for the doc, if you have a complaint about any of his tweets, you have.
I don't know if we want complaints because that might take a while.
Can I start here? You have, as someone who got to play when you were at the Sun-Gazette, and I'm now probably 16, 15 years removed from when you would cover me.
Mm-hmm.
You have become much more aggressive on Twitter in the last year or two than you would have been
he's
10
the
years
old
ago.
Cantankerous neighbor.
That's what it is. I'm a bitter, cynical person, and it shines through at times. Yeah, it just beats you down. And
I'm telling you, my cousin and I, because obviously we follow the feed, and my cousin sometimes, my cousin and I will just be like, "Boy, he's really going after it. He's going for it."
I'm a grizzled veteran. And,
is it almost are you to the point now where it's who's gonna topple me? If I say something, who's going to stop?
You're the Stephen A. of Central Pennsylvania.
No, don't say that is the last person I want to be compared to. That guy's they're both jackasses.
You would rather be compared to Stephen A. than Skip.
Well, that's not a great
that's a low bar.
If you had to pick one,
who would you pick though if you could pick anybody?
I like Freddie Coleman.
Ooh,
there you go.
Freddie Coleman.
He's actually normal and not like hot takes.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from hot takes.
Well, I'm telling you, they're getting hotter.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to mention this before we get too far down the road. Newsies is running this weekend. NorthcentralPa.com is the sponsor for Newsies at the Community Theater League. Jeff and I both went and saw it last night.
Yes.
So let's you're quick. Well, you're a newsie. I've never seen the movie. You've seen the movie multiple times.
Yes.
I'd seen the musical. We were both fans going in. Give me your thoughts right away.
I loved it. Now again, for me, it's like a cult classic. There's a person that plays Jack Kelly that I swear to God could have been Christian Bale in a time machine. For those of you who love the movie, absolutely nailed it. Got to talk with the director a little bit after the show. Just really, really well done. If you grew up with the Newsies at all, you will not regret going to see the show. I was a little tentative, as always, when you go to see a show that is one of your favorite movies. Crushed it, knocked it out of the park. Sincerely enjoyed it.
There are some pretty good tickets still available. I know Friday night. So if you're not in the football crowd, or if you know people who aren't in the football crowd, you can grab tickets tonight because I know you think of the football people aren't theater people, but a lot of the band kids are theater people in there. So they're obviously busy tonight. But even tonight and tomorrow, groups of two, even a family of four, you can still kind of squeeze your way in. So just Google Williamsport Community Theater. It is easy to order your tickets. And that was my first thought in watching it. Because I didn't know who the kid was. Some 20-year-old from Loyalsock. And I'm just where do they find these people? Because the lead was so good. The villain was so good. And the female lead, in the first act, she doesn't have a whole lot to work with. But in the second act, she becomes a much bigger character. And you find out she had comedic timing.
Let them go see the show.
And
figure it out.
It's you will not be disappointed. If you're disappointed, then you're an old curmudgeon. Massey would probably be disappointed because he's an old curmudgeon.
And if you're a fan of the arts, the great news, Chris was telling us pre-show, he's actually going to put out his top 10 marching bands halftime shows. He's going to start ranking them down on his Twitter feed as well.
I probably get more grief over that from people than over the team rankings and things like that. I think people are pretty passionate. You're out
for lunch. How often does somebody come up and say something about specifically the player rankings that you do?
The player rankings I get, for the football ones, I think I get more comments on that than the team.
Yeah.
I get a lot of, that person's way too low. They're going to be high. They'll be higher by the time the season ends. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's
prove it.
Good. Yeah. That's what I say that before I put these. I was it's just for fun. And we'll see what happens in the season.
Well, it's impossible to do. Can I tell you one you're too low on?
Go ahead.
Marco Polizzi.
I'm excited to see what he does this year.
Yeah. You
I
had
think
him like 20 something.
He was in the 20s.
He's
Yeah, I think he was around 27 or 26.
Super athletic.
I get a lot of this guy's a top 10.
I've
probably had I've had about 45. This guy's top 10.
which mathematically doesn't.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
If it's fresh enough in your head, or is there a player or two that you found yourself like moving up higher than you expected, or somebody that you?
Is it fresh enough? This is all he thinks about.
I know.
Is it fresh enough in his head?
I'm just making sure that he doesn't feel like he's on the spot. He's got some wiggle room if he wants to get out.
Well, Polizzi actually did go up further because a lot of it's based on some of it's based on stats from last year, and Marco was one of those guys that you knew he's a really good player, but he's also not had. He hasn't been the guy. He's been on more veteran teams before, so it's a case of sometimes it's got they're going to be good, but they are really good, but they haven't yet shown it. And
then he got a high ankle sprain.
Yeah. But he did move up. Cam Michaels is a guy that from Lewisburg is a guy that I think I had in the mid-20s, and that was a guy that I kept moving higher and higher because I was like, this kid's a darn good athlete, and he does so many different things. I kept moving him up.
I got to see him this summer, little travel basketball stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling, until he's right in front of you, you do not realize how fast
he's a blur. Yeah,
he's really quick.
Yeah,
wild how fast he is. First question: who do you guys pick between Montgomery and Hughesville? Let's upset some people.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah.
Who do you want to go with?
I'm going Hughesville. I think Montgomery. I think I like what Christian Diggs last year, but that was a senior-laden team. They're really, really young this year, one of the youngest in the area. Hughesville's kind of the opposite.
Is Hughesville coming back now?
I think if you're, I said this in my column today. I think if you're looking for a team to be a sleeper and make a jump in the win total, the 3-4 win jump, they could be that team because they have a lot of kids back and they have more players too. They got more players to come out this year, so. I like them here, and I think they could, make a run at 5-5 or something like that this year.
I'm gonna selfishly, I'm gonna take Montgomery just to go against Doc Masse. Toasted bagel power. I think they have. They're gonna get the good meal in the morning. I've said before.
I will say this. Some of these rivalries. I don't mean to cut you off, but you start talking about bagels. You start talking about bagels, so I'm gonna go back.
Well, what I wanted to talk about was I just wanted to say we talked pre-show about Christian Diggs. I was going to say, I think sometimes we get caught up in the football of it, but as a first-year coach, one of the hardest things to do is to just win over the program.
Yeah.
And so just kudos to Christian. I think he did that, and it'll be interesting now to see kind of where it goes and how it projects.
And I think, this is what I was going to say, these kind of geographic rivalries, and I know Muncie lies in between them. So the Muncie-Montgomery rivalry and the Muncie-Hughesville rivalry are bigger than this one. But the Montgomery-Hughesville, they're all down there in the eastern end of the end. We see Loyal Sox traveling across the state. Montoursville's got Wellsboro. There's some of these teams. Where's Williamsport going?
State College.
All over.
Yeah. So they used to open with Central Mountain a lot, and they had that local one. But this is a good local. Hey, just to remind people, because some of these places I don't even know if school has started in Montgomery and Hughesville. I know it hasn't started at Williamsport.
I know South Williamsport starts next week, so I don't think most of them have.
It's an interesting way to kick off, and I don't think it's a bad way to kick off to get a lot of the local bad blood week one. Let's go.
No. And I said last year I thought it was I said going in because it's the second straight year they're playing in the opener. Last year I looked at it these are two teams that could use a nice springboard to start the season, and Montgomery won, and that's what happened. They went 3-0, and then they ended up having a good season, and it was kind of the opposite for Hughesville. And I kind of look at it for Hughesville, I think if they get to 1-0, it's only 1-0, but I think when you've been struggling for a long time, that goes a long way.
1-0 is a big win.
Yeah, that goes a long way towards turning things around.
Yeah, for sure. Explain, you were telling us before the show, why is Canton traveling to Union?
Because Sarah's a bunch of cowards.
Here we go.
I don't care if people are from Sarah or watching.
Welcome to the live version of Chris Masse's Twitter feed.
The views expressed by Doc Masse are not necessarily those of Midday Show.
Well, a lot of people agree with me. If you don't live in Sarah, I think everybody agrees with me on this one. And they're the laughing stock at District 4 right now because they've got 28 kids sign up, and they said, well, that's not enough. And the coach was crying and saying, well, most of them are young, and it's freshmen and sophomores, and they haven't played. It's Class A football. That's how it is. Bucktail. If Bucktail had 28, they'd be having a parade. We
don't talk about parades on the show.
Yeah.
They had 18 players sign up. They're playing. Canton went 9-2 in 2008. And they had 22 players. They had 17 players in their playoff game one year. It's Class A football. It's a gutless move by Sarah.
Did the coach really end the sentence with me?
Yeah, that's how
Is that a quote?
That's how I envision it. You know where I get that from? It's from Eric and Billy Madison when he's yelling at.
I've never seen Billy Madison.
You've never seen Billy Madison? Oh my goodness.
Do we know anything about Union? I know you said.
I know very little.
Well, so this is why. So Canton.
Yeah, they were literally.
And when Sarah dropped their
and that's another thing. Sarah waits till August 4th to make this announcement that we're only going to play JV. So 10 opponents are scrambling at the last minute.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
and you can't say, well, they can just mix and match, but it's only once a week.
Yeah.
So you got one team that's out.
Exactly. And so and a lot of it, like Canton was in the toughest spot because it's the opener.
You have less time.
And they literally were going to teams in Delaware and New Jersey, and finally, literally 3 days ago, they got Union.
Yeah. Can I put you on the spot? How good is Canton? And you can't just say good.
Really good.
Okay.
Like that's why he is a legend.
Well, because we had talked pre-show, like you said, they're going to have to play Shore this year.
Yep.
Like they're going to be. I don't want to say they weren't tested last year, but they're certainly going to find out quickly this year, right?
Yeah, Union's an unknown because I think they've been pretty decent in the past, but I don't know a lot about them. But I mean, they were a juggernaut last year. Going to the state semis at 13-1. Yeah. And they've got most of those kids back. They lost some really good linemen. Yeah. They lost Cooper Kitchen, who was a quarterback. Didn't throw a lot, but he was a great athlete. Who was a good point man for that team. But
can they compete with like the 3A and 4As, or do you? Like,
that's
to put you on the spot.
Well, that's a tall order. Like Jersey Shore, Week 9's a tall order. Canton's really good, but 4A state semifinalist is a different animal. I'd be surprised if they keep that within 3 touches. As good as Canton is there's just a different level between where Jersey Shore is at and Canton is at, just in size alone.
But with high school sports, when we talk about senior laden teams, so just because the team was really good last year and coming back, one of the things we've heard in Montoursville is that Troy lost a lot from last year because Montoursville has Troy on their schedule.
Yeah.
So is that because they were a really good team last year?
Yeah, and that was a testament to how good Canton was. I mean, Troy came down to Loyalsock and just bulldozed them, and Canton beat Troy 36-0. Yeah. So, I mean, Canton was a juggernaut. Canton smashed Muncie in the district final, and Muncie had a great team. They beat Steel High, who was the defending state champion. They beat Old Forge, and they got to the state semi. So they were legit last year. They have a chance to be better this year. The only difference, I think, is now – Muncie was the hunted the last 3 years. Muncie had beaten them 3 straight years in the district final. Canton's now in the position where everybody's gunning for them.
It's a hard spot.
And it's a different spot. The expectations are a little different. I think a lot of people that don't understand how sports work already have them penciled in to the state semis. It's not how it works.
Well, fortunately, we understand how it works.
Yeah. And I mean, the district's tough a lot because now South Williamsport's Class A. So Muncie's already coming back with a good roster again, and now you throw South into the mix. It's no given they're going to get out. They're the favorite in Class A, but it's not. It's far from a given that they're going to get.
Class A, so South got below Mount Carmel and Southern.
Yeah, which is obviously huge.
Right.
And even Chris Eisworth said that we said the same thing in the preseason. They still got a tough road in Class A. But at least you have hope now. Yeah. Whereas in Double A, it doesn't matter how confident you are. I mean, you pretty much know you're going to be roadblocked at some point by Southern Columbia, whether it's in the semis or the final.
Now Mount Carmel's good again.
Well, I think Mount Carmel last few years, I think, might have been the second best team in the state. Like at least 2 of these last 3 years, they might have been the second best team in the state, and they were roadblocked by Southern. This year, I think Mount Carmel has a legitimate shot to topple them. I'm not saying they will until it happens. Southern's the one, but Mount Carmel's loaded.
huge.
They're
These are
massive up front.
massive.
They are
huge.
massive.
They got off the bus the one game I saw them last year, and I
Oh.
almost was like, "This can't."
Yeah.
It's a
possibly
they
be
look like a
team.
college
They are. I
team.
mean, yeah,
Yes.
they're like it's a bunch of pretty close. If they're not 300, they're pretty close, pretty much across the line. So they're just going to truck
Can
some
you
teams.
imagine? And we can because we're. But what the atmosphere in Mount Carmel? Like we're just talking here before the show. Like I can't believe football season started already.
Yeah.
In Mount Carmel, if they are that good and they have a shot to play with Southern, like the saliva's already running. Like I don't know what game it is. Is it? It's not the last week of the season, is it? Isn't that
No,
Shamokin is the last?
Shamokin's the
Probably
last
somewhere
game.
in the middle.
It's
They have
usually
gotta
early,
be
yeah.
juiced.
Oh, I'm sure. And they have a big one tonight. They open with North Schuylkill, who's always great. And North Schuylkill's beaten them at least 5 straight years. So
especially if it's at Mount Carmel, which is the best place to watch high school football.
it is. It's an awesome atmosphere.
With the band coming down the street. If
Yeah.
you've never been to the Silver Bowl to watch a football game, it is a blast. And the concession stand is awesome.
Yeah,
Because
that's the main. That's
you
the
laugh.
That's the
That's a
important
big
thing.
deal. When you go,
It
they
is.
got good pierogies.
Yeah.
It is. You go
It
down
is.
in the coal region, it is good eating.
Let's
It
go.
is. Yeah.
Next question for you. What about Jersey Shore? Chris, you think they'll start off where they left off last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a lot like Canton. They've got 8 starters back on both sides of the ball, and I think their depth is
Keep going up.
that not only the experience that they have. I think they have a bunch of young players that a lot of people don't know about yet that are ready to burst onto the scene, and it's it's a case of success breeds success. Even when like last year, they lost a lot of good players from the previous team that went to the state final, and they just kept rolling along. And there was they had a couple of close calls early last season with Selinsgrove and Montoursville. They won those games, and then the momentum just picked up, and they're just kind of a machine down there. And if they can stay healthy, I think getting out of districts won't be easy. Selinsgrove's there. Selinsgrove's always going to be tough. But I think it's a team that has a chance to make a deep run in states for a 4th straight year. They're pretty loaded. They were an easy choice for number 1 in the top 5 this year.
It's one of the things about football because there's less games than the other sports. And as a coach, you don't want to make too much of the early games because it's a long season and playoffs are down the road. But at the same point, we keep talking about in any sport, but football especially, what that one win or that one loss can do to momentum and belief in the locker room. And so, a couple of those early season wins for some of these schools can be a springboard where a couple early season losses can really be a wet blanket.
Yep.
So, again, as a coach, you don't want to come in and like, we need to execute tonight. But, like the first couple games. And as a coach, too, you look at these games that some of them are harder than others. And the ones that you really got a shot at and kind of the ones we really got to get. And if it's week 1 or if it's week 2, it puts a lot of pressure on early because either it's, we're running into – because some of these schools, you run into teams you're not going to beat. This isn't like the NFL.
Yep.
It's where everyone kind of has a chance every week because sometimes you just don't.
No, absolutely. And Shore's got a good one tonight. They play Pottsville. Yeah. And they had a triple over, maybe the best game I've ever covered here. And, was it 3 years ago? They beat Pottsville in triple overtime in the state quarterfinals. They were down 21-0, came back to win. It was unreal. And and I used to think, like coming into the season, Jersey Shore has all these expectations. And I used to be like, they got to stay focused and blah blah blah. It's like with Jersey Shore, Tom Gravish just such a great job keeping them zeroed in on that week, and they don't get ahead of themselves. And that's, like I said, it's kind of like a machine. It just rolls off the assembly line, and they know how to attack their business. So I don't worry about that with Jersey Shore losing their focus or any intangible like that.
I don't like to say too many nice things about Jersey Shore, but the history before he got there, the tradition is not good.
They were terrible.
Certainly, what they've done, what that staff has done is amazing.
Yep.
And now you're right, they win every year.
Yeah.
They are a given, not like Southern Columbia is a given, but it is. I hate to say it's like Williamsport basketball. You're like, well, this guy graduated, but they're still going to win again next year. And that's where Jersey Shore has got to be in football. and it was never like that. So
No.
Gravish
They
has done
didn't have a
unbelievable
winning
job.
season in the 2000s before Gravish. They had 2 500 seasons, and that was it.
He
They won
has
3 games in 3 years before his
what
first
he has
year
done
there.
up
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it is.
Game for Jersey Shore tonight. Pottsville should be very competitive. Pottsville's playoff team in 21 and lost to Allentown Central Catholic in the playoffs. Somebody also hooked us up. MCA, SCA. They're actually going to play week number 8.
That's later than usually. It's been week 2, week 3, somewhere around there.
What a great! If whoever looked that up, can you find out where that is? Because that's
I'm thinking it's at Southern. If you put MCA,
that's what
Southern,
it looks like.
But
I would assume it's at Southern.
Yeah.
But Mount Carmel's such a better atmosphere. Well, let me ask you. Back to Jersey Shore. Everyone hates Jersey Shore's field. I love Jersey.
They love and they love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
What do they hate about it?
I mean, because everyone else has turf and everything's got
and
fence.
it gets waterlogged pretty fast.
It can get, if it rains, it's a
it
little
turns
bit of a quagmire.
it was a quagmire in the playoffs last year.
It's
a great atmosphere.
It is a great atmosphere
because it's right in
a neighborhood-ish.
Yeah. And it's like Mount Carr. The players are walking up the street. They're literally walking through the neighborhood to get to the field. It's pretty cool.
And part of it's like I played there, like they haven't. It's still the same field, but you talk to people and they're like, "Oh, Jersey Shore, I hate going to Jersey." I love Jersey.
And Jersey Shore uses that to their advantage, I think, because they know teams don't like playing there.
Well,
and I think it works to their
because they get their asses kicked.
Yeah, well, I think I think they hate, especially when it's late in the season, and like we had the monsoon in week 10 last year, so their field was their field was really a mud bowl for the rest of the for the 2 games in districts too. That's one that you're already thinking about Jersey Shore being a tough team. Now you're worried about the grass too, and it just plays into their hands.
I think Island Park might be the most underrated football.
That is nice, yeah.
Because you've got the river behind it, and you got
that is nice, yeah. I like going up there.
Island Park.
That's where North Penn plays. Yeah.
It's where the Panthers play.
That's where we got Thursday night football next week. They play Canton on a Thursday.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a referee?
Yep.
Referee.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Tom Dickinson who retired.
Yeah. He had a great run.
20 plus years.
Yeah.
I
think he was there. I think maybe since '93 or '94.
Okay.
And that's we talk about Jersey Shore and Gravish turning around. I wasn't here in the early '90s, but I was told North Penn was just god awful at football, and Tom Dickinson got them to where they were a perennial contender, where they were in the hunt every year. Yeah. So he did a heck of a job.
Shout out to him. Chris Olson now, head coach. I don't know if you know Chris or
not. I don't.
No. Chris has taken over. Not to step on your football preview. Sleepers, someone we should look at. We talked about Hughesville could be one of those teams. Is there somebody else that you kind of had down as somebody that you think could turn the corner, or something you're looking forward to? Yeah, I mean, a couple of teams on the fringe there. I think Lewisburg has a chance, although we talked pre-show about Jeremiah Davis getting hurt, unfortunately, and missing the season. That's a big blow, but I like what Eric Wicks is building there. I think they could be an interesting player in the AAA field. Milton, coming off a 7-5 season, has everybody back. Not everybody, but I think they have 8 starters back on both sides of the ball. That's a program.
And a new field.
And
they got to be a little excited about that.
I'm going down there tonight for the game against South, which I think will be a great game. So they're one of the teams. South, I don't know if you call South a sleeper, but they're outside that top 5 right now. And I think in Class A, they lost all their skill players, but everybody's back up front, and that's a great place to start. So I'm excited about what South can do.
It's a lot easier to find some fast kid to run the ball than it is to find somebody who can
especially if you got block guys pancaking people in front of them. I could run in front of them, or I could run behind anybody. I could run for 2,000 yards behind anybody.
So now you've given the sleepers. Who sucks? Yeah. Just tell us who do you hate? Who sucks?
Nobody sucks. They're all good.
Nobody.
I'm not getting anybody mad at me.
I'll tell you an interesting one for me to watch is Central Mountain. Because they, again, they were bad for a long time. They kind of got it going last year.
Yeah.
And they have some team on the schedule I'd never heard of. Garden
Spot.
Who's down in Lancaster.
Yeah.
They got Williamsport later. They used to open with Williamsport. Now they got them later. They got. I think they closed with Jersey.
Yeah,
Shore.
That's the rivalry game.
But
they opened with Mifflin County.
Did they win? Did they win 7 games last year? 6 or 7?
6 and 5.
That's a lot of wins for Central Mountain.
2 straight years they've gotten to the district final, and yeah, that's because they were struggling to win 2 games a season there for a long time. They're really young this year, so they're extremely young. Unlike Sayre, they said we're really young. We're gonna fight on. We're not gonna be.
Can we not revisit?
We're not gonna
Sayre?
quit and be gutless. So Central Mountain said we'll take our guys and fight on. So, but getting back to Central Mountain, I don't know if the record will match what they do last year, but I love what they're building there. Like Shannon Manning is their coach. He's the 2nd year there. Did a great job at Bellefonte. Turned them around from a doormat into where they won a couple of district titles. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a program on the rise.
We're 25 minutes into the show, and we haven't really talked about Williamsport. So just so we're not canceled or nobody gets upset with us, Williamsport football, new coach, new direction. What do you expect?
He's Mike Pearson's a great guy, and he's got a nice track record. And but it's not going to be easy because that was a senior-laden team last year, and he's got a lot of holes to plug in, and especially up front. That's going to be the big question. I like their skill guys a lot. It's just going to be a matter of whether they can hold their own up front. Tonight's a huge test to go into State College. State College beat them in controversial fashion in the district final last year on a last-minute field goal. But State College is ranked number 8 in the state coming in, and Williamsport's a lot younger than them. So again, like I said with Central Mountain, there could be some growing pains there, but I think ultimately Mike Pearson will do a good job there. I think people are going to have to be patient with them and understand Rome wasn't built in a day. So especially with the schedule that they play, it's not going to be easy.
You know what fans don't have?
Patience, exactly.
No, they do not. I heard my birdies did tell me though that there is a Canton Williamsport connection now because I believe Reese Holmes is helping with the quarterbacks.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So there is a little bit of a Canton Williamsport connection just to tie the whole show together.
Look at you.
See how I did.
You are a pro.
I'll tell you what, Williamsport has one of the better players in the area, one of the more exciting players in Jameer Harden at wide receiver. He's really fun to watch. He probably would have been a 1,000-yard receiver last year if he didn't get hurt and missed 4 games. So guys like that are going to be fun to watch. Like I said, it's just a matter of what they can do in the trenches.
Yeah. Can you, because I was talking to a coach who helped out with the North-South game, and can you, for people who don't really get it, can you explain to people the difference between Williamsport and some of the smaller school football and how the record doesn't always reflect how, because I don't know, I still think there's a gap or a disconnect for a lot of people.
There is. I mean, like people, and sometimes it's the case in basketball too, where they'll be 3-3. And I'll have them ahead of a 5-1 Class A team. Williamsport would smoke that Class A team, and that's the juggling act. I kind of have to walk with the rankings. Like I'm not saying this team ranked ahead of Williamsport is better than
they're 10-14.
Yeah,
but they're number one.
There are teams that
kill all of you.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, in football, there's I think Jersey Shore would beat Williamsport, and I think there's other teams in years past that would be competitive with Williamsport. But when we're talking like the double A's and the single A's, it's like no, they're. I don't care what Williamsport's record is. They're going to smash the Class A and Double A teams, and people don't understand
and that's not
that different. No,
like
it's
it's
6A versus 1 and 2A. Yeah, right. It's just a different world, and that's I agree. There's people that don't people who are probably in Canton probably think that they could beat Williamsport. Yeah. No, you're great at your level. Right. 6A is a different animal.
That's the neat thing about the North-South game is all of a sudden, you get to see some of these athletes at these bigger schools that maybe a team goes 3-7 or 4-6, but all of a sudden you get to see them out there against our kids, and you're like, oh, okay. They're just playing at
now. I get it. Yeah.
They're just at a higher level of competition that is just different. What are you looking for here?
I'm just reading.
I'm just reading comments. Is there anything we skipped? Anybody that you want to talk about? Anybody that you didn't get a chance? Do you know an Adam Best, a Jean Best? He's going to be a dog out there this year. I don't know what school he plays for, but
I think he plays for. Williamsport. I think he's a lineman.
All right, going to be a dog out there this year.
Yeah,
maybe that's him.
For Best.
Maybe that's him because they're not in school yet. So
they
he's
are.
he's plugging himself.
They could be doing that.
Yeah.
Here, just some random ones for people who don't know. I said one of the most random ones to me. Athens is going to play Executive Education Academy.
Yeah.
If you're a basketball
That's
fan,
a haul for executive
it is. If you're
education.
a basketball fan, Executive, you told me you think it's their second year having a football
I
team.
think so, yeah.
Central Columbia, Shikellamy will be tonight as
Shikellamy
well.
might be better than people think.
Yeah.
I agree. Muncie Warrior Run.
Muncie should be good again.
Muncie will be tough. Yeah, Muncie, South, Canton, and Class A. All those. Two of those three will be in the district final.
Okay.
That's a safe bet.
Southern Berwick at Berwick.
That was a game, that people wanted to see that game for years and years, and now Berwick's just hasn't been the same the last few years, and Southern mopped the floor with them. I think it'll be more competitive this year, though.
Danville should be really good again.
Danville's
Bloomsburg to open up.
That's a tough draw for Bloomsburg. Danville's loaded. They've got just about everybody back last year. They've got something rolling down there.
Loyal Sock at Berks Catholic as well.
Yeah, that's a tough opener for Loyal Sock, but win or lose, it's a game. I mean, I think AAA last year, all 8 teams made it. I think this year there's more teams, so you have to be pretty bad to miss the field in Class AAA. So why not go out and play a team like that? That's gonna maybe get you better down the road.
And that is the question. Not to cut you off. Do you want to play them? Do you want to play them later when you think you're better, or do you just want to get battle tested early and kind of set the bar for your team and say, if we want to be good, this is. So there's conflicting thoughts. If you're a coach and want to play in week 1 and do it, I get it. Nick Saban does it all the time.
Yeah.
Or if you're a coach, is this, hey, we want to get a couple under our belt and we'll play in week 4 or 5. Maybe that's the only time Berks Catholic could play. But I was shocked when because I asked Jeff the other day, who's Loyal Sock open with? And he said, I don't even know. And I pulled up the schedule. Yeah, and I don't know if they're any good. They sound good.
They're usually decent. Yeah, they were 8-4 last year. They're usually pretty good. And I said Sock is like Williamsport in the sense that I'll put Sock's skill position players up with just about anybody, like anybody in District 4. The unknown is how they will perform up front. If they perform well up front, good luck stopping them, because when you got Tyler G at quarterback and Davion Hill at running back and Ryan Glunk at receiver, those are some tough athletes to contain.
Mifflinburg Midwest, how far into the Midwest experience are we?
I think it's about year 4 or 5, and they're struggling.
Okay.
They had a couple of good years where they had Hunter Wolfley was a great running back, and they had some decent teams, but they've struggled. They struggled last year, and Mifflinburg, that's a team to watch. That's an exciting team.
Aren't they? Isn't Midwest super at soccer?
They're usually very strong.
So you could lose a lot of skilled players who grew up playing soccer that just don't.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Game of the week, North Penn Mansfield Towanda, right?
Absolutely. It's the ESPN game.
That is. Yeah. That's what the little league commentators, Ravitch, and those guys are going up to watch it.
That might be a good transition. Little League World Series. You've been up there a lot. You love it. Can't get enough of it.
It's a grind. The games are exciting, but it's all the stuff that, like, for me, it starts when the teams start clinching U.S. because I cover the American field. Okay. So once the first 2 teams clinch, they clinched on August 9th, I think. I start pounding the phones and getting in touch with people to get feature stories lined up, so I can start writing things before the series. So I can start writing things a week in advance. Because if I wait till the series starts and start crank these features out, I'll lose my mind because there's just too much going on.
So basically, to clarify, he's saying it's just the work's too hard.
It's a grind, man. I got 5 stories in every day. Yeah. That's a lot of stories. Yeah. 3 features plus the gamers every day. It's a lot.
The gamers write themselves. That's nothing. Here, I'll give you an update on the world that you've been missing. Orioles big win last night.
Orioles are, God bless them. What a year. I mean, we're going off the subject here, but it's like, I mean, not a lot. Jeff's a young guy. A lot of people. It's like 1989. You can relate because that was the year after they started 0-21.
Yeah, why not?
And they went into the last series of the year with a chance to get to the playoffs.
While we're on football, let's just turn a little bit. You were a Penn State alum.
I thought we were talking about Little League.
Well, we were, but we're
Little
done.
League, Orioles, Penn State, all within 60
Well,
seconds.
we're
All right, I don't care.
Marcus
You
Show,
just throw
buckle
you
up,
throw the
strap
stuff.
in.
I'm an expert on
Do what you
everything.
have
Just
to
throw
do.
it at me. I'm ready to go.
Okay. Do you have anything
I'm a
from Little League that
self-proclaimed
you want to
expert.
say that hasn't been said?
I want to talk about Team PA. Here, I said this. I think obviously no one's cheating. Obviously,
Yeah.
I was shocked at how much smaller the Pennsylvania team was than like Texas and some of the other teams.
Texas
Did
does
you
have some big
feel that
boys.
way or no?
No, I didn't.
It felt like Texas would come up and it'd be like 5'8".
Texas
5'9",
does have some big
6 foot.
dudes. Yeah.
And then PA would come up and it'd be like 5'3", 5'4", 5'2".
Yeah.
Like I was stunned. I think in Little League size can matter, and I think what PA pulled off with really what was like a lack of a physically like
Imposing
team was
team.
impressive.
They had a heck of a run. They were 10-0 in elimination games
What do you
this year
think,
before they finally lost.
I'm
Texas?
waiting for Penn State talk.
And now he's going to pass.
It's holidays, man. You should be excited. It was a team from like 2 hours away.
I just drove past.
Hawaii. If Hawaii if Hawaii wins this series, which I think they will, they'll be the best team I've covered here in my 23 years of covering the Little League World Series. They're unreal.
Well, there you go. I want to say this about the Little League World Series.
And the U.S. managers have been awesome.
Can I
They've been so classy this year. That's been a pleasant experience.
I just want to say this about Hawaii, and I'm just curious. Out of all the American teams, I would make the assumption that Hawaii might have been the least affected by COVID. And so I am curious, like, you have a lot of kids who maybe didn't get to do all the things they typically would have gotten to do through, like, end of 3rd through 5th grade, that I wonder if these Hawaii kids, like, actually, like, they still did what they would normally do. And I'm just saying, like, the island life through COVID, I'm curious how much that might be playing into their success.
Well,
I'm not taking anything away from
them. And they play year round.
Yes.
And that's a huge part of it.
And
they're hard
work. That's a good, because I remember baseball was one of the few. It was like the first sport that people got back to because it was
also
outside.
The first sport that was taken away. I mean, that first spring and summer.
You missed March, April, May.
That first spring and
start
summer
till
was
June.
erased.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of those kids probably did a lot of individual work, even if they couldn't, get together and have team practices, because they're pretty dedicated. Like they love the game, but they love the grind. Like the kids love playing, but I think they love the work that goes into it.
They get up in the morning and surf first. They're in the pipe. Then they come. They eat Spam.
Crosley got I forget what they call it, like Spamosa or something. They gave Crosley a couple of them.
I want to say this about Little League too, which I saw online, which annoys me.
We were ready to talk about.
Well, no. Now you drug me back into it. So I'm gonna say, and people, we've discussed umpiring and things like that over the whole that infield fly triple play controversy, which you've seen it obviously on the Twitter.
That was at the international game, right?
Yeah. Yes. And you can Google it and you can find it. And there was a little blooper on the infield, and it hit fair and rolled foul. And they picked it up, and they ended up calling a triple play. And they went to replay, and they reversed it and got it right, called it a foul ball. And people are complaining that it should be an infield fly rule. For an infield fly, it's not just a pop up on the infield. It has to be, in their judgment, to be caught by reasonable effort by an infielder. And when you watch the replay, nobody got close to it. So every idiot out there that says they should have called infield fly rule is just an idiot because no one came anywhere near it. So obviously no one could have caught it with reasonable effort because nobody could have caught it with extraordinary effort. So it ended up being a right call. And it's just an example of people liking to complain just to complain. But they were wrong.
Yeah.
And the umpires were right.
Like
eventually.
When I complain, I'm always right. So it's valid. I don't complain just to complain.
All right. Penn State. Yay, nay.
Well, yeah, like yay, nay, in like what regards?
Are they
like
a good seat? Like, are you excited about the Penn State season?
No. As long as James Franklin's coaching them, I won't be excited.
Here we go.
Okay, let's start.
Like, I think they'll do what they use. I think they'll go like 8-5. The typical.
That's fine. Who are you getting better than James Franklin? Because that's always my question to people who are out on James Franklin. Like, you out on him, but then you show me the dude that's going to do better at Penn State.
Yeah. I mean, I don't watch a lot of college. I watch Penn State, but like I don't watch a lot of other college football. Give me like did Cincinnati's coach? Did he go to a bigger place?
And Luke Farrell or whatever.
Yeah, give me like a guy at an up and coming program that's turned one. I'll take my chance with.
That was Franklin.
This is my and we are.
No,
bigger, we are bigger Franklin supporters than most people, and I understand that. Like last year, if your quarterback doesn't get hurt, they beat Iowa.
They would have beaten
certainly
Iowa.
Don't lose at home to Illinois. Or no, that was the first game he was back
for that one,
but he wasn't. Whatever. So that was just I don't know. That there's a bad break there, and I know people say you have to have a better backup. Your backup needs to be more ready, and I get all that. But Penn State was poised to make a much better run, and then injury just kind of. They
would have been better than 7-6, but
I
don't think they were gonna. I think they would have flamed out at some point. He would have lost the game. They would have lost a game that they weren't supposed to at some point. They would have lost to.
In your mind, like, are they a top 5? Are they supposed to be a top 5 program? If you're not, you're gonna lose a game.
Exactly. But I would rather them. When you're going 4-5, and I get it. COVID was the COVID year was weird.
No Parsons either.
7-6. Like if he's rolling off. He had that run where they won the Big Ten, and the next year I think they went 10-2. Barkley's last year there. That's what I'm expecting them to be, rattling off 10-win seasons. I feel like they should be like an Ohio State. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a team that is annually.
But before COVID, weren't they number 4?
They were knocking on. They were getting there, but.
I think
then they've fallen off.
I meant not before COVID. I meant last year. They were.
I can't express to people enough. Michael Parsons might be the best defensive player in football this year, and him not
behind Nick Bosa,
him not playing that year. I think people don't understand the difference.
It definitely hurt. It definitely hurt. He would have made a nice difference.
You take the best defensive player off of any of these teams, and it hurts.
Well, I think too.
And we'll see what he's made of this year because the exptions aren't that high. They're not in the top 25.
But
so we'll see what he does with it.
Or
they're on the border.
They're right there. If you
but they're not where they were the last 2 years. They've been ranked, I think, in the top 15 going into the season. So, we'll see what he does with a team that a lot of people don't think will be as good as the expectations aren't as high going into this season. But if they, to cut you off, I should say more than Franklin is if they don't improve their offensive line play. They're never going to be a powerhouse again. Their line play has just been dreadful lately.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
Because you would think they would dominate all the great linemen from the Northeast. But I think when you look at, they're not Clemson, they're not Ohio State, they're not Alabama, they're not. You take like the top 5, Oklahoma, they're not there, but they are somewhere between 6 and 15. So they are right there in contention. There aren't a lot of other schools that you would say, aren't they as good as Michigan nowadays? I would say they're right there with Michigan. Aren't they as good as?
But Michigan made the playoffs. He's got that but you're right. They go before Michigan run last year. Yes, they were identical almost. You could argue Penn State was better than Michigan going into last year. Yeah, for a few years.
So there aren't really. I mean, Georgia's got a good little run going now. LSU's kind of up and down. Notre Dame's even. But beyond that, like Texas and. Oklahoma State, you'd have a hard time finding a bunch of teams that you're like they are better than Penn State.
And we'll see, if they go 4-5, 7-6, and go 7 and are around 500 again this year, then you start saying now we've got a pattern going, and so maybe he gets a pass for these last 2 years from critics like me, and let's see what happens this year.
Decade, he has been a thumbs up. And now,
I don't know.
I just think the 14 playoff puts some of these schools in a position where, even if you're successful, people don't think you are.
So that's valid.
And so, I think for people that are Penn State fans that just look at James Franklin the way they do, he's never made it to the playoff. It's nobody makes it.
It is hard to get to the playoffs.
It's almost impossible to make it to the playoffs. So I don't know.
And especially when you're starting, That's one of the things I hate about preseason rankings is it influences the season so much. So if Penn State were to make the playoffs, they've got to vault so many different teams to get there.
We talked on the show the other day. One of their a weird issue to have for them is they've started off hot, and you almost want to like inverse it. Like you almost want to have like a loss in week 1, week 2, week 3, and then momentum goes the other way. Penn State's problem is they start off 5-0, 6-0, and then the wheels come off of it, and then it's people. That's what people remember is the wheels.
Exactly, and that's the takeaway from last year for most people, including me, is that they fell apart down the stretch. And now, granted, when they got to the bowl game, they had nobody left.
Bowl games, if you're not in it, and you got guys that are going
especially
to
now,
guys, bowl games
especially now when players are opting out.
It's almost like the Pro Bowl. Like we're going to have a football, and we're going to have 11 guys on each side, but I'm not really sure what the quality is. No, I'm with you. But they open with Purdue, and it's next week, right?
Yeah.
Thursday
night.
It's a Thursday.
Thursday night game,
Next Thursday.
Yep.
So
and that's a good test because Purdue's
Virginia
pretty good.
And Penn State, Purdue are the same night.
Yeah, that's a tough game
because
Purdue's
Pitt's
coming.
ranked.
Yeah, well, that's a tough game for both teams. I mean,
they got West Virginia at home. That's their right. So, and I know I'm not gonna. My daughter goes to Pitt. I'm not gonna pretend I'm a Pitt fan. I pay attention now more because she goes there. But they finished like 13 last year.
Yeah.
And now they're preseason ranked. I want to say 17, even though Kenny Pickett graduated. Yeah. It is a great story for Pennsylvania college football when Penn State, Pitt, and Notre Dame are all good. It really makes Saturdays a blast.
It does. It was a lot more fun in the 80s and even into the 90s when they were all playing each other every year.
Yeah, and that should come. The Penn State Pitt rivalry should just be there.
Yeah,
it's just Saturdays.
Absolutely.
Are you excited for the USC Penn State rivalry?
Yeah, and UCLA.
You know what I'm excited for about this? I don't know if we've even talked about this. The expansion of the Big Ten. I'm excited for them to almost redistrict it to turn it into a political term. I would love to get Penn State out of the Michigan, Ohio
absolutely.
State. The buzzsaw that they get, because right now the East is so heavy in the Big Ten that you can win the West by just like not being terrible.
Yeah.
And in the East, you almost have to be an NFL team to win. So it's so unbalanced, and it would be better. I would almost like to see them put them all in different ones and just say like, Ohio State and Michigan are going to play every year.
Yeah.
And then like have a rotation of somehow, but they could certainly do a lot better than how they've divided it, because it's not fair.
It's terrible. And I don't know if the Big Ten's doing this. I think I heard the SEC's doing it where they're just going for the SEC championship. It won't be whatever it is. East, West, they're just going. The two best teams are going to play, which I think is awesome.
That is better.
Because that's it. That gives you much better matchups than when you have an undefeated or one-loss team playing somebody that has 4 losses but is in a crappy division and won it by default, like we get in the Big Ten a lot. Where Wisconsin gets there, because and they might only have 1 loss, but because they're not playing anybody.
Right. Well, they're playing Nebraska.
Exactly, they're not playing anybody. You talk about a fall from grace.
Wow.
My goodness. Wow. They were such a powerhouse for so long.
And they were, we've talked about teams that lost tough, close games, and I don't know, we were probably talking before we went on the air. Nebraska with what's his name, Scott Frost, they lost more heartbreakers and more.
There's a way to lose. They found
a way to lose, and it was. I'm rooting for them. Like, just because
I would, because I always liked them growing up. So I'd like to see them come back.
If they were good again, it would be fun, and they just can't get if they went 7-6, they'd have a party.
I know, and that's that's amazing. But we're back in. I think Frank Solich was getting fired because he was like 10-2 or 9-3. Like, that's unacceptable.
No, they would love it now.
It's what a change.
So tonight,
you know who Scott Frost looks like? He looks like. Did you watch the TV show Friday Night Lights?
Hmm?
He looks like the
Chandler.
Is that the guy? He's like the big act. He's like a big actor now.
Mm-hmm.
He was like he was the tight end or something.
I don't remember.
Oh no, it wasn't. He was the coach. Chandler was the coach.
Yeah, no, he doesn't look. Okay. He kind of does look like. But
Taylor Kitsch, the fullback.
No, he was the blonde guy with the buzz cut. He's married to some celebrity now.
Oh.
I remember the chick.
Was his name Landry?
Minka Kelly that dated Jeter then for a while.
Yeah, no. Well, whatever. We can get back to that some other time.
No, that was fair.
That's I think his name was Landry. I forget what his name is.
Rings a bell.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're
that's
right.
who every time I see.
Jesse Plumes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's who he reminds me of. Whenever I see Scott Frost, that's who I think of.
Yeah.
At least that's what he looked like
He's,
when
like,
he was
taking
back on
off.
the show. Yeah,
Friday Night
yeah.
Lights is like the 10th best thing that dude's
Oh, that
done.
dude's and he's
Yeah,
I forget
everything.
who he's married to some really attractive actress, but I can't remember who it is.
Most actresses are.
Yeah,
It's funny how that works.
that's
Anything else? Orioles? No.
you were getting ready to ask me something before I brought up the Scott Frost
I
thing.
don't remember.
You remember it all. Anything you want to plug?
No,
Oh yeah, I do want to. Tonight you're at Milton.
Yeah,
Milton and who?
South.
Milton and South.
Should be good. The over/under on pass attempts in that game is 7.5.
So
Because
you're gonna
Milton's
be
a lot
home
like
by
South.
9?
Yeah. Because South, neither one's going to throw the ball if they don't have to. But I'm excited. It's going to be a good game. Like I picked Milton in the paper, but that was one I went back and forth on. Because Milton's got some good athletes, and they got most of their line back. And so, like I said, South has everybody back up front. So it's going to be a good battle.
And you said it's at the new stadium too.
Yeah, so that
You just picked
makes it
Milton
even more
because
exciting.
you're going to Milton, and you're not.
That's
you don't
not
have
why I
thick enough
picked 'em.
skin to take the heat.
Oh, I got enough skin to take the heat. like Vinnie Mac once said in WWE. I'm not going to say it, but he said
he pulls out a quote that he.
I got things the size of grapefruits.
If we got
In Austin, you're going to be picking seeds out of your teeth.
if
That's what Vince McMahon said, not Chris Masse.
if we were able to get the mascot heads, would you be willing to put them on? Like,
Oh, absolutely. I would love to be the bad guy.
okay,
Like going back to wrestling, I'd always want to be the heel.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I don't know.
I'd want to be a manager. That would be the funnest part because then you can cheap shot people
You can run
and get out and run away and get out of the gym without getting hit.
Massey's a 49er fan, if you
Die
ever
hard.
read his tweets, he's obviously.
I stay very level-headed during the games.
Yeah, exactly. So he is a 49er fan because he grew up outside of Philadelphia. And of course, there's a huge 49er population outside of Philadelphia. So, like, the first football game he remembers watching, his whole family's there rooting for the Eagles, and they're playing the Niners.
Yep.
So since there's a house full of Eagles fans, obviously Massey's going to be the one to root against everyone. And that's the story of his life.
And the Eagles
right
won. The Eagles won. That's the because it was 1983, and they won. It was a Saturday opener for some reason, and yeah, the Niners lost, but it stuck. I stuck with them, and what a time to join them.
But he started just to be obnoxious and to piss off everyone in the room.
Yep.
He's like, I'm rooting for the other team.
Have some of that. And I'll tell you, it was glorious growing up because that was when the Niners were a dynasty and winning. I like 81. I wish I had been a fan then, but I don't remember. 82 is like the first season I can remember. But I got to see the Niners win 4 Super Bowls while I was at Garnet Valley and going to school with a bunch of Eagles fans. It was so great. Talking trash.
But you weren't
constantly
in anyway.
No, not at all. I didn't rub their faces in it constantly. It was glorious. Being a Pistons fan, 88 and 89, the Niners and Pistons both repeated. So you can imagine how much people hated seeing me in school.
More so than they usually do.
Yeah, it was a glorious time.
Have you heard the stories of him cheating during high school cross-country meets? Have you ever heard this story?
I did.
He types about like the good guys.
Again, I don't. It's doing. No, it's not allegedly. I did, but it's doing what you've got to do to try to win and help your team.
So this is one of my favorite.
We'll get into that in a minute.
This is one of my favorite tweets he ever did. He did this on January 9th, 2022.
Wait, you saved it?
No, it's here. Oh. He said, so I guess while cheering on the playoff bound 49ers today, my account got hacked and some idiot tweeted a lot of rage stuff about Niners personnel.
Yeah.
I was too busy cheering my Niners or knowing my Niners would pull out an amazing win to notice. My apologies. Hashtag NFL in case anybody at the offices needed to know.
That was weird how it had. Like some dude was going on there and bad mouthing everybody on the team.
Like
Shanahan.
I
don't know. Yeah.
Jimmy G. You love him. You love him.
If I hear that he's a genius one more time, I'm gonna snap.
Here, I don't know if you know this story too. We'll just throw Chris Masse here on the couch and talk. When Richard Sherman was a Seahawk and they were beating the Niners, obviously he was public enemy number one to Masse. Masse tweeted him so many times that Sherman blocked him.
He did block me.
Then he ends up being a Niner.
Yeah. Now I love him.
He loves him. And Sherman won't
I gotta find a way to get in touch with him. A funny story about that. after Seattle beat them in the title game in 2013. And people forget, Sherman didn't make the interception. He just knocked the ball into the other dude's hands. But anyway, I despise him. I hate him. And the next day, Dave Troisi, who was our editor at the time, comes up to me. He's like, it was a rough one last night. I feel for you. And I was like, I freaking hate that Richard Sherman. And he's like, yeah, I hate him too. And Troisi's a big Eagles fan. He's like, I'll tell you, Chris, if the Eagles ever signed him, I'd have a hard time rooting for the Eagles. And I was like, Dave, if there was one guy in the world I could punch right now, it'd be Richard Sherman. But if the Niners went out and signed him tomorrow, I'd go buy a Richard Sherman jersey and love him. And lo and behold, it happened a few years ago, and he was my boy.
That's
how it works.
blocked.
Yeah. It's funny what a change of jersey does for you.
We were talking the other day. Did you watch the Manti Te'o? Have you heard about the documentary at all? Have you seen it or heard about it at all? That's something we should all watch it and then read.
That'll be interesting. Yeah,
it's fascinating to watch.
That will be
because they get Manti Te'o to talk, and then they also get the perpetrator.
Oh wow! I would like to see that
to talk. Yeah. It is really, really interesting.
That's interesting.
Anything else?
Really we can go back to the cross country story. If you want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. If there's no judges out in the middle of the course and he would just take shortcuts.
And that's this was and I was the captain of the team. Now, granted, I started doing this before. I was a captain of the team.
That's why you became captain.
That's why, because they were like, well, that makes it easier. It's easier to win when you're cutting. That's what I did. Like
when you say cutting, like cutting corners, or like were you legitimately?
He was the best example of it.
Like path through the woods.
Well, it was a home meet, and our course took us like our high school was like here, and our junior high was across the street. So it would take us like around the junior high. So we would get to the junior high football field, and we have to run, down the back end zone line, and then down, and then cut and go down the other sideline. Why get to the end zone and nobody's around? So no
officials.
No officials. Yes, there was another runner from the other team. So I just take the quick way, and I just go diagonally across the football field. And the one kid's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Who's gonna stop me?" So I cut it, and I finished in I was like there were guys on my team that finished ahead of me despite that, but I got us more points, and we won. We went winless the year before with me as captain doing that. We won our first meet, and then we had a pretty good season. And then again, that kid could cry, but who's going to defend him? He's going to be like, "Oh, he cheated." Is he talking? And I'm a good actor. I'd be like, "You're going to call me a cheater, you son of a." I would never disgrace the sport like that.
This is his life.
That's what you got to do.
The WWE. What? There was a tag.
Yeah, you do what you got to do. So yeah, like to answer your question, sometimes it was just taking a little corner and cutting a little bit off. Sometimes it was taking a big shortcut. But again, it's doing what you got to do to win.
It's beautiful.
And it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's their fault for not having judges stationed at different places.
So you fully support the Houston Astros?
Yeah. I don't like when you're caught, then fess up. Like I never got caught, but if I was, I'd be like, yeah, I was trying to win. Like the Astros be like, oh, it's no big deal and blah blah. No, just admit that you did it, and like if I had been caught, then I would have been like, all right, you got me. But in my defense, I was trying to win.
Surveillance camera. When the kid's like, he cut across, and you're like, no, I didn't.
Yeah, how dare you?
Isn't like, this you? Rosie Ruiz? Yeah, isn't this you? You guys are too young to remember.
No, I know who you're talking about. But I'd be like, all right, like, to answer your, I'm not an Astros fan because of that, but I guess that does make me a little hypocritical.
A little bit. Just a little bit.
But I still cheer for them when they play the Yankees, so. Because I'll cheer for anybody against those.
This is what I think it is. I think you don't.
But it's doing what you got to do to win. So.
I don't think you like people who cheat, unless
it's me. Yes.
Unless it's you. If someone's dealing off the bottom of the deck, that's not right. Unless you are dealing.
But if I'm doing it, that's
hey.
When I was playing board games with people growing up, and the one time I cheated to win Yahtzee. And after the fact, they found out and they were like, well, that's not fair. And I'm like, you should have been watching me. You know who you're playing against, and you know I'm going to do what I got to do to win. So if you're not watching me like a hawk, that's on you.
Have you ever played euchre?
No.
Okay, so up north there, have you ever played?
I've never heard of
There's-
Euchre's a broadcaster for
Yeah,
the
great-
Brewers.
yeah,
so-
great one.
So up north and obviously different parts of the state, euchre is like the card game of choice.
Mhm.
And it's 2-on-2, but part of euchre, like literally part of the game, is trying to steal the deal. So like once it's done and everyone throws their cards in the middle, if the next dealer isn't paying attention, like you kind of swipe it and just start shuffling and just. So there are games where it's kind of like you cheated. And it's like, listen, like if you're not paying attention.
Exactly.
Like,
That's yes.
Euchre,
that's
I grew
on
up playing
them.
Euchre, and that is
Like
one
when
of the
because
games.
when I'm playing games against it, you better believe they're not going to pull one on me. I forget who said that. I'm not the one that said the quote. I can't remember who did, but you can't con a con man, and I'm a con man when it comes to games. I'm going to do what I got to do to win. It's like the Matt Millen
Did
said.
you ever see Matchstick Man? Because you can con a con man if you watch Matchstick.
I have not seen that.
It's not bad.
But
not
it's like-
great.
But Matt Millen said when he got to the Raiders, there was a big sign in the locker room, and it said, Raiders rule number 1, cheating is encouraged. Raider rule number 2, C rule number 1. That's it. I mean, if you can get away with it, do it.
He
Have
obviously
you,
couldn't cheat as a NFL general manager.
Do you?
He needed to, but yeah, maybe that's why he sucked because he didn't.
I
he
think
should've.
I asked you, do you watch Hard Knocks at all? The football.
I
show on
see it
HBO?
occasionally.
It's the Detroit Lions this year, so I think it's Campbell is the
Dan
coach.
Campbell.
That guy's
It is wild.
yeah, that guy is made for something like that.
It is, and like, and don't get me wrong. I mean, every year they attach to this person. There's always
Yeah.
somebody doing something absurd. This training camp is like, if I were a player in this training camp, I would kind of be like, "What is happening?" It is absurd.
I've
Yeah,
heard.
that
I have a
guy's
friend who is a
wild.
Lions fan. I have a good
Okay.
friend who's a Lions
God
fan.
bless
But you
him.
can imagine
Oh,
his life.
God
It's almost
bless
like
him.
being a Jets fan. Except I
Except
think,
the Jets at least have won some playoff
I think
games
the
and
Jets
given you.
is more painful for some
I don't
reason.
know. I
As
mean,
a
the
Lions
Lions have
fan, I
won
think
one
you just know
playoff
you
game
suck.
since 1957.
I know, but I think they just know they suck.
You know who they beat in that one playoff game?
Dallas, I know.
There you go, 38-6.
Yeah, I get it.
That's rough.
But anyway, he said if you watch it, you will love Dan Campbell.
Oh, yeah, and
Oh,
even
sure.
like last year at his press conferences,
but I can
he-
love somebody and not want to play for them.
yeah.
Like
Like,
those are two very
I think
different
there's
things.
like a shelf life. Like I think he's good for them right now because he's like that gung ho rah rah kind of guy, and that's good for a team that I think has sucked for so long. But I think it has a shelf life.
It's
and-
hard. It's hard to do that and get them from the basement to the penthouse.
Yeah.
Like, and there are very few. Like Jimmy Johnson did it. I know Bill Walsh did it way back when with the Niners and
Yeah,
stuff.
but they were
It-
different styles of coaches than
There's
this
a
guy.
yes. To get them from bad to respectability is one thing.
Yeah,
But you
to get
can't rah-rah a team
all
from
the way to the top.
500 to the title. Now you've got to be smarter than
Yeah.
everyone else.
I just-
Exactly,
I
and that's
just
what
listened
Walsh
to
and
him.
Johnson were.
I just listened to him on this Hard Knock show, and all I can think is like, when these dudes hit the wall, because you do. I don't care who
Yeah.
you are, what athlete you are. There's a wall you hit every
Yeah.
season. When these dudes hit the wall, and that's your coach, like I don't know
Yeah.
how you're getting. Like you've given everything
Yeah.
you had before you hit the wall. Like I don't like it's.
No, and that's
it's
like,
not great.
I mean, Belichick's on a different level, but yeah, like to compare, like when things are going wrong, you can look to a guy like that, or like a lot of other coaches like McVay and guys like that, and be like, okay, he can get us out, you know. Shanahan to a degree. Like I trash him all the time. He's decent to a degree, but he's just terrible in big games. But to a degree, yes, I believe that the players would look at him and go like, he can get things turned around. Where, yeah, to that point, Campbell, they're like, this guy's nuts. How the hell is he going to get us out of this hole
They
we're
were
in?
doing, I think it was the second day. They're doing up downs, and they did 40 up downs. And the coach is like,
nuts.
doing it with them. And then it's like the
That's-
third day of training camp, and they are in full pads, full out, like going. And I'm like watching it, and I'm just like, I'm not even a football guy,
Yeah.
and I can tell you right now, like this could end really ugly.
And that's like, because I remember the Rams talking about when Dick Vermeil took over there, he had them doing like he said that was his plan. Because he was like, we stink anyway, so I'm going to work these guys to death for a year or two, and then go. The difference was Dick Vermeil, and they knew this guy went to a Super Bowl. He was a great coach. Dan Campbell doesn't have that going for him. So yeah, that's not going to go over well.
I was telling him the other crazy thing. Sorry, I'm rambling about it. Their staff is almost entirely made up of former players. There's almost not a single individual on the staff who was not a former player 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So like Mark Brunell, Deuce Staley,
all
these,
and their names, they're like,
But here, like again, if you're a 60-year-old who's been through it, that's a great staff to have.
Yep.
If you're like Campbell wants to do the things that these other guys are doing, and it's like that's not your job.
Exactly.
Like you need somebody to tell them like, hey, Thursday, like it's a mental day, like like there it is like full rev nonstop, and it is like, oh my god. So I don't know.
And I think in the pros, like, and Walsh and Tom Landry always talked about it, like the players are here and you're here, and you can't be like, you don't want to be their friends because you're going to have to cut them and do different things to motivate them and things like that. And to that, and I don't think that's like those guys. You're not going to see Bill Belichick doing up downs with players, and it's because but I mean, Sean McVay ain't going to do it, and he's in his 30s, because you just got to be on that different level. And it's like
I like him. Like I think he would be a great number 2 or
but he's your head guy, and when you're looking at this guy doing up downs, you're like, but this guy's kind of whacked out.
They need to get to 500 though.
Yeah, like I said, that could be for this team now. That could be good to get them out of the basement.
I guess,
but when they want to go to that other level,
when you're trying to scheme to beat Aaron Rodgers, you don't want your head coach doing up downs.
To me, like the first trick of getting to 500 is avoiding the wall. Like that's the first trick. Like in order to get to 500, you need every win you can get through the full slate of the schedule. And so when these dudes hit the wall, they have to buy in, they have to believe, they have to have something left in the tank. Nobody on this Detroit Lions team is going to have anything left in the tank.
Especially, it'll be interesting if they come out slowly.
Oh yeah.
And now they're like, well, I've been doing this, and we're 1-4.
Well, that's and now you're like, when you're doing all that stuff, they're probably fatigued. And so if you get off to a good start, that's one thing. But if you're at 1-4, 0-5, and you took that pounding in the preseason, now you're going to feel dead tired, and now you're going to have nothing left for the rest of the season, and it's going to get ugly.
Last thing I'll say about the show: most Hard Knocks series, they don't have like a special thing for the quarterback, but they have him mic'd up. You'll hear him talking to different things. I swear to God, on this show, 3 episodes in, Jared Goff has not said a word. And that, like, I've never seen a quarterback in these series just not speak.
That's weird.
So either
they should be some of the most vocal.
Yes, either they're purposely, the way it's being filmed, they're purposely doing it and you're just not hearing it, or it is the most weird QB1 situation I've ever seen.
That is bizarre. Yeah.
He doesn't say anything. Like he's in meetings and stuff, and like nothing. He doesn't say anything. Yeah, it's wild.
Because you're the leader. I mean, it's your team. You should be pretty talkative. You know, even
maybe Prescott. Well, maybe he saw how much Baker talked, and he's like, maybe I shouldn't talk at all.
Maybe. Anything else you want to plug before we go?
No, just the Orioles. You know, plug them a little bit.
Hang in.
I mean, it's been an amazing season. Like even. Like I can tell you most of the guys on the team now, where like the last 3 years, it's just, I just gave up in April because they were so god awful. And it's like at the end of the year, I'm like, who the hell are these guys? I don't know any of them.
Another 3-run homer last night.
That's the one bummer about the season, that they let him go. And I get it; they weren't going to re-sign him. But when you're in the playoff hunt,
we could talk about that a different time. Yeah. There's about 2 people in the listening audience.
Yeah, I know.
But
the fact that
they mishandled that.
They did, but. It's exciting. Like, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but it's exciting that they're in the race. And I think the next few years are really exciting because they have something good brewing. They could be a lot like those Astros teams that came up, were built that way, minus the cheating.
They're better.
Although if they cheat to win, I'm not going to mind because I just want to win.
Because it's your team.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll talk about that later. But
About the cheating or about
No,
the
about
Orioles?
the Orioles
Okay.
trade deadline, and
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of it, but we'll see.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com and the Williamsport Sun-Gazette to
Yes.
see Chris Masse sports
Got
coverage.
the preseason
Milton,
rankings and all-star teams
and
in
then
there
tonight is
today.
Milton and
South Williamsport.
South Williamsport. Chris will be
Now I will not be there.
And I will
at
be
the
tweeting a
Montoursville
lot.
game.
Nobody
I'll be at
asked.
the Montoursville-Wellsboro game.
That's a
Nobody
good game
asked.
too. That's 2 area teams. That was a good game last year.
Wellsboro,
They ended up with Montour pulled away late, but Wellsboro battled
Montoursville
him.
won by depth. The Adams
Yeah.
kid is fast.
He's their quarterback
He is
now.
fast.
And he
So-
does he does a bit of he's like a Swiss Army knife.
It
He's a good
depends,
athlete.
just with depth.
Yeah.
How many linemen do people have, and how
Exactly.
um,
Wellsboro
When
had
you're done,
hey,
just push that button.
one last thing. Wellsboro had 24 kids last year. That's less than 28 than Sarah had. Hey, you know what Wellsboro did?
See,
They
I
went
got off the screen right before we
Wellsboro went out,
upstairs
went
somewhere.
5-4, made the playoffs while playing bigger school teams than Sarah would have played. You're gutless, Sarah. That's all I gotta say.
What do you think about Sayre?
They are gutless. They are cowards. They are the laughing stock of District 4. Now I don't have to go up to Sarah anytime soon, so I'm not worried because, but they're gutless. I mean, come on, it's the most gutless thing I think I've ever seen at the high school level. 28 kids, and we can't play varsity football.
I think in doing this show for 2 years, we've never used the word gutless. He just used it 5 times in 20 seconds.
That's the best way to describe them.
This is probably worse than the parade conversation.
It is. Again, the views expressed by legend Doc Masse are not necessarily.
You should agree with me.
I don't know enough of the details. I'm surprised.
They keep
did.
saying they just
I'm
well,
surprised.
we're so young. These kids haven't played before. It's Class A football. You're going to have young years. Montgomery played with 15 one year. Guess what? They were mostly freshmen and sophomores. They fought on.
The other thing I don't like about Massey, he's very wishy-washy on his opinions. I wish he would take a stand. I wish he would, just tell us what he thinks. All right, what am I clicking on?
You're good. Thank you guys for watching Midday Show. Thanks to Doc Masse for coming on today.
My pleasure. I was glad to get some ranting done.
Yeah, no, we'll have you back in.
This is therapeutic.
It is.
Next
It
time
is,
he
it
can
is.
lay on the
It's
couch.
not, I was going to say,
We'll
next
do a
time I'll be on the
full review.
couch
Yes.
and we can talk about Kyle
It'll be like
Shanahan.
It'll be like The Sopranos. Thank
Yes.
you guys for watching the Midday Show. We'll see you guys soon.